Hey there, comic book fans. It's Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and here I am sitting in the car waiting for one of my favorite comic book shops in the Baltimore area to open up. It is Cards, Comics, and Collectibles. And if you guys are familiar with this shop, you know that they are the ones who run the Baltimore Comic Con, and they do a fantastic job at that. But they also have a fantastic store up in Reisterstown, Maryland. And every year at Thanksgiving, they do a fantastic sale. 70% off of modern back issues, 50% off of graphic novels, games and toys, and a 30% off of all of their premium books. I'm talking Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze, and Modern Keys. Just a tremendous amount of books that go through. And over the course of the last 30 years, I have built up a tremendous graphic novel collection just because of this sale itself. And at 50% off, it has saved me a lot of money over the years. But in the last couple of years, I've really focused on back issues, finding books that I can get at a good price, get into CGC, get graded, hopefully get some grade bumps after a good clean and press, add value to the book. And whether it was being added to my PC or they were for resale, either way, it was always good. But this sale with that 30% discount you can really find some good books in here. So I will be quite honest, I did cheat a couple of days prior to this. Now, this is being filmed the day before Thanksgiving. So, guys, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving, first and foremost. Hope you traveled safe and got to see lots of family and had a great time. But this is being filmed the day before Thanksgiving. So I'm going to go in. I hope to be one of the first people in line. And as I was saying, I cheated. I did come up a couple of days early to scout out what books were going to be available. And I took photos of the books I was interested in, including the price sticker as well. And I went home, did some research to see if it was going to be worth getting at those prices and at those conditions. Having taken those photos, it gave me a chance to really examine the books a little bit better than I could quickly in the shop that day. So we're going to line up here in a few minutes, hopefully be one of the first people in line, and then we're going to beeline it right to some of the books that I definitely want to get. And then we'll spend a little bit more time going through the bins and hopefully find some other things, because I couldn't go through everything the other day, but we'll see what else we can find. But I'm definitely going to beeline it to some of the books that I saw the other day. So stay tuned. I will not do any filming today because they are not the biggest fans of YouTubers filming, so I'm not even going to broach the subject. Plus, I'm going to be pretty rushed to go in there and find the books I want to get. So we're going to come back after I pick up whatever books I pick up today, and we'll do a little show and tell. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
2 hours later.
All right, guys, I just finished up at Cards, Comics, and Collectibles, and I had a great time going through all the books that I could. I definitely found some of the books that I had selected a few days ago. They were still there, and I kind of weeded those out to the ones I really wanted. And so I'll show those off once I get home, but I did spend a little bit more time going through some of the other bins just to see if there was anything else that I wanted. What I would say is I couldn't spend all afternoon here only because it is a work day for me. I do have to work the day before Thanksgiving, and it was taking forever to get out of there. I couldn't believe how many people were there, and a lot of people were buying toys, tons of toys, and that line was enormous. I couldn't believe how fast people got in line after picking up a few things. It took me as long to get out of that store than it did for me to actually go through everything I wanted to go through. But we're out, we're headed home. Once I get home, I will do a little show and tell for you guys. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Many unbearable hours later.
All right, guys, I made it back home after the big Thanksgiving sale at Cards, Comics, and Collectibles. And the first thing before we even get into what I picked up, I do want to apologize to you guys for how late this video is coming out compared to when the holiday was. I'm filming this only a couple days after the Thanksgiving sale, but in truth, when this video comes out, it's going to be a couple months later. And I do apologize. There's a reason I've been putting my episodes out on YouTube, scheduling them in advance. It has to do with the copyright issues I've been having with some of the music that I have on the videos. And I've got so many in the can that I don't want to overschedule and put too many episodes on top of each other. So I have spread them out. And that's one of the reasons this episode is coming out as late as it is. But I hope you guys still enjoy this haul. It's a great shop. I hope you guys get a chance to visit this shop at some point. They have big sales like this at Thanksgiving. They do weekly sales on the weekends, mostly graphic novels and some of the toys, but not often do they put the sales on all the comic books. And Thanksgiving is one of those big giant sales. They also do the same sale around Easter, and same kind of sale, 70% off of modern back issues, 30% off of the premium books. And that's why I go for these sales both times every year. And 50% off of the trade paperbacks and the hardbound books. In fact, a lot of my Marvel, my artist edition books, those big giant original art type books, I picked all of those up at this sale over the course of the last 20 years, every one of those books that I own. So you can do really good going to the sale. I hope you guys get a chance to check them out. I left their website address down in the description below so you guys can check them out. Anyway, so I go to the sale, and I had already pre-scouted this. I may have already said that a few days in advance. So there were some books I was going to target. It's one of the reasons I was the second person in line. I didn't want to be the first person and be that guy, but I definitely want to be one of the first people in. I was going to beeline it to the books that I really was going to target the most. And I was going to spend a little time looking at them a little bit closer, scrutinizing them, see if I really wanted to put the money into it or not. And in some cases, I did put back a few of those books that I had thought about getting, and I ended up getting the ones that I really wanted. But I also spent a little time in the shop going through, and I found a few more things. So let's start with the few more things part first. This Wednesday that I went, it's New Comic Book Day. And normally you guys know I'm at Third Eye Comics for New Comic Book Day, but not this Wednesday. I was at Cards, Comics, and Collectibles. Now, after I got finished going through all the premium books, I did go over to the New Comic Book wall, and I picked up a few things for this particular week of New Comic Book Day. So again, this shows you how late things have coming out. I did pick up the Jim Lee Justice League Unlimited #1, the new Hush cover right there. This is not a ratio, it's just a cardstock cover, but that is a beautiful illustration right there. I did pick up this. It is the, I want to say, second or third printing of Absolute Batman #1, the foil edition with this Nick Dragotta cover right there. And I've talked about, there you go, you can see it right there. The foil, you got to get the light on it the right way. Speaking of Justice League Unlimited, I also picked up the regular Jim Lee cover right here of the rest of the team. I picked up the Raphael, I believe I'm getting this right, Raphael Albuquerque cover of Absolute Wonder Woman #2. I think this is #2. Yep, #2. Now, why did I not pick up the regular #1? Well, it's because I've already a lot of books for New Comic Book Day already pre-ordered. Just like that Justice League Unlimited, I've got the regular covers already pre-ordered. I'm picking up variant covers like I do most New Comic Book Days. That's why I go there, is to pick up the books that I might not have pre-ordered, or ones that were just not on my radar at the time when I did that pre-order 2 to 3 months in advance. And then I did pick up in their more modern, recent modern books that were just out, new comic books that were just out. I did pick up Kill All Immortals #4. This is a little series from Dark Horse that I've been enjoying. And I remember this, I had it on my list at Third Eye, and they didn't pre-order this. So it wasn't on their stands when it came out. So I went ahead and picked up a copy at Cards, Comics, and Collectibles. So that was it for the new comic books for this day. Now, I said I went through the premium books, but before we even got to the premium books, I went through the trade paperbacks. And I didn't spend a lot of time there, but one of the things that I have collected over the last 20 plus years of going to these sales on Thanksgiving or Easter, both actually, is I spent a lot of time building up my trade paperback collection of the Marvel Masterwork editions. And I've got just about every trade paperback for the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man. I got various ones of some of the other ones, some of the Captain America, some of the Thor, some of the X-Men, some of the Daredevil. I don't have complete runs on a lot of this because these paperbacks weren't always available. I was basically finding ones that were available at this sale, and 50% off the cover price. It was always, I mean, it was going to be anywhere from $12 to $14, give or take. But I did not have the X-Men Volume 4 right there, so I picked that up, and I think this goes through issues, let me see, it's issues 32 through 42. It's mostly Werner Roth and Don Heck artwork. I mean, to be quite honest, the artwork's pretty atrocious for the most part, but you got some really great covers in there. I mean, I always loved that cover right there. I remember that mostly from the reprint right before the new X-Men in issue 94. They had that as a reprint, and I remember that they recolored the background to be very green-like. But that was the original. I kind of always enjoyed these stories. They're fun. And the backup stories in these issues were also reprinted in here as well. So you get to see some of the origin of Cyclops, for example, in some of these stories. And this is honestly one of the first Marvel Masterworks trade paperbacks I've picked up in several years, because as far as I know, they're not doing the paperbacks anymore. They're only doing hardbounds. And I don't collect those. Those are a lot more expensive. That's why I got the paperbacks, because I wanted to read these books. I wanted to read these stories. And it was much more economical for this. But I've got shelves filled up with the trade paperbacks at this point. And I don't know how collectible they are. I don't really care. I enjoy reading these stories. So whenever I can pick these up at good prices, I will still pick these up. I also went through the premium books, but I didn't have a lot of time. But I did go to pick up one of my my most favorite comic book of the last year, what I think is the best ongoing title out there, and it is Jim Zub's Conan the Barbarian. And I went back and I went through the modern back issues to dig up another cover A. I'm sorry, it's not cover A. This is, to be honest with you, I don't know which cover it was, but it's one of the covers to issue number 1. But I do recognize Mike Mignola artwork on issue number 1. This is one I didn't see originally when it came out. So I went ahead and picked both of those up. Again, these were 70% off, and these were $5 a piece to begin with. So 70% off of that, you guys do the math. So that was it. Like I said, I didn't spend a lot of time on the trade paperbacks or the modern back issues. I did look for some Harley Quinn, Jenny Frison covers, including Poison Ivy. And at that point, I was running out of time. It was a work day on this Wednesday. But I did go through and look for some of the books that I had previously scouted. And there were a couple Spider-Man books that they had thick stacks of these books. I mean, I'm talking anywhere from 6 to 10 issues each of some of these Spider-Man. And I did spend time looking at some of those. And I was targeting them because if I could pull a 9.8 on any of these, the price was going to be worth it. But it turned out the ones that I had previously scouted just didn't meet that criteria. There were some defects that I just didn't think would merit out a 9.8. But when I went back on this Wednesday, I did spend some more time looking at those original books, but I went and looked at some of the other ones as well. And lo and behold, I did find a couple that I think are 9.8 candidates. I picked up issue number 153. And this is from February 1976. 9.8. This is why I jumped on this. When this looks super hot. I mean, the spine looks fantastic. The corners are sharp. There's no spine ticks. 9.8's literally a year ago. That's the last sale I could find. $749, $638. Those were the last two sales back last year. I couldn't pass that up. And this right here, I picked up one more, issue 157. It's got this great Doctor Doom cover. It's probably one of the better, did I say Doctor Doom? This is one of the better Doctor Octopus covers right there. And I believe this is still Romita doing some of these covers. Yeah, I'd have to look it up, and I'm pretty sure that's a Romita cover right there. Beautiful cover. Not quite as good as that 153 in terms of return, but 9.8 on that. $380 up to $445. Those were recent sales in this year. 9.6s, $119, $225. So it's definitely got some meat on the bones. And I forgot to mention 9.6s on this actually have gone for $193 up to about $200. So I've got some definitely some potential in these. These are books that I bought completely to clean and press, get them in the CGC, hopefully get those 9.8s, but even 9.6s do pretty good, and be able to sell those as part of paying for the hobby. Now, those were not on the radar. Those were just ones I picked up after going back for the sale. But these next 4 books, the last 4 books, are the ones that were on my pre-screen when I went in there several days in advance, and I found, and that these are books that I definitely wanted in PC. The other ones are definitely kind of speculation and got some intriguing value to them. Let's start with this one right here. And I don't know how this is going to do, but I'm intrigued because you know, guys, I love to get books signed. I love autographs. And I saw this. This is Sergeant Fury and Howling Commandos number 92. It's a square-bound book. This book right here, right there, front and center, you can see it right there, signed by Herb Trimpe and Dick Ayers. Just some beautiful artwork. You guys know Dick Ayers was famous for doing Sergeant Fury, and Herb Trimpe, of course, is famous for doing The Incredible Hulk. And what's funny is this artwork on here. I was looking at the artwork on the cover. I'm sure what you've got is you got a Trimpe cover, and inside is Ayers. But the cover right there is so reminiscent of so many of those Hulk issues in the 140s. It has the same feel to it. The same really fine lines, the way that it's inked and everything. It has exactly that same kind of feel. But this is a book that intrigues me. I can't find a lot of comps out there. The closest I could find was a 9.4 on eBay right now, being asked for $180 unsigned. So this is one of those, I'm taking a flyer on this. And even if it doesn't sell, this is going to be pretty cool to keep in the PC. I do have Herb Trimpe autographs. I've actually got a couple of Dick Ayers autographs as well. I've gotten both of those in person over the years. In fact, I've gotten them in my 50 fabulous years of Marvel hardbound book that I collect all the Marvel artists in. I've gotten those guys back around 93, 94 in that book. And just to add them on a book like this is pretty cool, I think. So that wasn't the only autograph I picked up. I also picked up this. It is Shayna the She-Devil number 2 with this beautiful Jim Steranko cover. And you've got a beautiful signature right there. And the book isn't perfect. It's really good, except for it's got a little bit of a dog ear right up here. And I know how that gets knocked down on CGC, but I think this one's got some intriguing potential. And I can't find out anything out there that's signed. Again, I cannot find a comp on this, but this is actually one of the more well-known Jim Steranko covers. Not as well-known as, say, the Captain America or the Nick Furies, for example. Captain America's Nick Fury. But what I did find was 9.4 is currently out there for sale. 9.4, $222. 9.2 is going for about $120. With the Jim Steranko autograph on here, I'm not sure what we're going to get. This is one I'm going to probably take a flyer on. In fact, I think what I'm going to do is I'm doing a submission where I'm going to send in for some JSA verification on some signatures. I may send in both of these books, and I've got a few more books in the PC that I may go ahead and send in and just do one submission at one time, all JSA signature verifications. But both of these were kind of flyers. Let me see how they go. It's kind of intriguing. It wasn't something I normally would be looking for, but when I found them, I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. And I know how expensive a Jim Steranko autograph is. He's charging $50 a piece at this point. By the time I get around to see him, hopefully at HeroesCon this year, assuming he's going to be back, and he's there almost every year. I wonder if it's going to be even more. But right now, the last I saw, it was $50 a pop. So this right here is already worth it in my book. All right. So the first book that I actually ended up picking up, when I walked in, when the doors opened up, I was the second person in line. Again, I wasn't going to be that first person to get up there and be the first person to zoom in. I didn't need to. But I ended up beelining it right to this. This copy looks fantastic. It's got one little micro tick that might be a tick. It might just be part of the printing, but I think it may do really good. Even though it's a direct and not going to be as good as the newsstand, I did pick up another copy of X-Men 266, what was the first appearance of Gambit. Of course, it is his first cover appearance. Although, isn't he on the cover of that annual? I don't know. I don't care. Everybody really wants this book more than the annual. I don't care if the annual technically came out first. Everybody loves this book, and I think more people would, even though they have designated the annual, I think, as the first appearance now, this is the book everybody wants. This is still the money book between the two. And this still has a lot of potential. This right here, 9.8's direct, $783. I've seen it as low as $384, but that was on one of these auction sites, Collector Connection. So I don't know if that's the first time I've seen one of those auctions pop up. But after that, I saw another, whether it was Heritage or eBay, I saw it for $775. That's really good. 9.6s, and I know this because I just got a 9.6 on my most recent copy of this that I got graded, have dropped down $250, $260, give or take. So it's still going to be worth it because I didn't pay anywhere near that for this copy. It is a beautiful copy. But it brings us to the last book of the day, and this is a book that, yeah, it's got some value graded. I think it's going to grade out pretty good. It's a pretty tight copy. It does have a date stamp on the front, and I hope they don't discount it too much. I know that CGC doesn't like store stamps, like from the comic book shop. If they stamp a comic book, you get that a lot on Free Comic Book Day. They will degrade, really knock the grade down. But date stamps, they don't knock. But this date stamp on this book right here is actually from a grocery store with a date stamp with it. It was all one thing. So I'm hoping that it will be completely forgiven. But this book right here is a book that I had as a kid. I don't know what happened to the cover, but I read this book to death as a kid. I loved this book. It had so many heroes, so many villains, and the art, even though it was Jack Kirby, it was being inked. The inking's awful. I mean, what this book could have been if the inking had been much better, so much better of a book. But this is a book that I'm going to have a hard time, even if I get it graded, I may have a hard time partying with it because this one's a really tight book. It got some flaking down at the bottom, but the corners are fairly, well, the top corner is fairly sharp. The spine, as I said, square bound here, looks really good. And it's got some potential. I don't know what it's going to grade out to, but let me show it to you so I can stop doing with the exposition here. It is Fantastic Four Annual Number 3. You've got it's the wedding of Reed and Sue. And you've got a ton of villains and a ton of heroes. And thanks to Dr. Doom using some device that draws all the villains in, and you see all these random fights. You get weird fights between villains and heroes that you would never see as a matchup. It is an awesome book, despite the awful inking. December of 1964, and I must have gotten this copy from one of my uncles, leaving it behind at my grandparents' house. It's the only way I can imagine I got this book. But somewhere in my PC, I still have the coverless copy of this. This is a really nice copy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some grades and arrange what I think it could grade out to. Personally, I think an 8.0 is probably too high, but I'm going to go ahead and give it to you anyway. Recently going for $500 down to $360. 7.5, $300, and I've seen it literally drop all the way down to $117, but basically $300 to $250 for a 7.5, a 7.0, $269 all the way up to $350, and these prices are over the last couple years, so it doesn't sell a lot. My guess is I don't even know if it'll meet a 7.0. I hope it won't drop below a 6.5 personally, but this is a book that may have to stay in my PC for the time being. It's such a beloved book from my childhood, and it is in such great shape. But guys, that's almost everything. I was going to close it out right there, but there's one little item that I found as I was standing there getting ready to check out, and this shop has a ton of stuff, and every nook and cranny of the shop has stuff in it. And right beside the register, there's a cart that had all kinds of little badges, hero with logos on the badges, and most of them are just 50 cents to $1, nothing major. But I look behind on the middle shelf in the back, there's some sets of badges, and I saw a couple there, and like I didn't really care for a couple of them, but they had this right here, and I'm a sucker for the Watchmen, and they had a Watchmen set of badges sitting there, and you can see it here. It's not going to set up too well though. Let me get rid of the book right there. You see, you've got a Rorschach badge, you've got the Dr. Manhattan radioactive one, you've got the Doomsday Clock right there, and then the little one here, it says, it's actually, I can't even read that. That's, what is that, Latin? This is all from the Watchmen series. Dave Gibbons artwork, Alan Moore, and awesome. Didn't have a price tag on it, but they gave it to me for $5, and it's awesome. Got that beautiful cover art right there from Dave Gibbons right there. Man, I don't know if that's worth much, but it's still sealed. It's never been opened. I thought that was a pretty cool pickup. You guys definitely let me know what you think about this and all the other books I picked up for Thanksgiving. And I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, definitely leave me a comment in the comment section below, like I said, and hit that like, slap the subscribe, and click on the notification bell so you guys don't miss out on any of the episodes that I put out each and every week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 3 p.m. All right, guys, I've had a great time. I hope to see you for the next episode. Just remember, guys, every comic has a story.